All right, well, welcome everyone to the continuation of PuzzleHR's Fall Symposium. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in, but we are looking forward to talking about open enrollment today. So it's that time of year for your January enrollments or maybe December enrollments, just a busy time of year for open enrollment. So we're really looking forward to talking through that today and hope you get some valuable tips and tricks. Here is our planned agenda. So we'll do some intros, introduce ourselves, share about some trends in the market, some resources for our Armenian employees, going through very important process, effective planning and preparation for open enrollment. We'll also talk about communication strategies and then what's next after open enrollment. You've launched it, it's been successful, but how do you continue to focus on benefits throughout the year?
And as we approach the fourth quarter of 2024 and the renewal season for 25, we would just want to arm employers with the right tools, best practices, and any tips and tricks to help you all be successful during your open enrollment season. We feel that effective communication can really help ensure a smooth open enrollment. It can increase employee satisfaction within the company and potentially help better manage overall healthcare costs. By optimizing your enrollment communications, it can boost employee engagement. It can help manage both employee and employer health costs. And it can also empower your employees to make informed decisions around their benefits. Today, we're going to focus on some core areas where we see leading employers rely on education, communication, and really catering to their employees' needs and requests. We're going to go through a quick introduction on who's speaking today. My name is Jake Bowman. I'm a partner with the Baldwin Group. We're headquartered out of Tampa, but I reside in Southwest Florida in Fort Myers. I've been with the firm for about 5 years. I spent the past 10 years in the human capital management space with a variety of companies, including payroll, PEO, but all really encompassing employee benefits. A fun fact about me is prior to moving into this role in Southwest Florida, I spent 7 years as a collegiate football coach. So very different in terms of my day-to-day, but just a fun fact about me.
Awesome. My name is Pat Single. I'm a senior advisor with the Baldwin Group here in the Tampa area. And I've got roughly 13 years of risk mitigation experience, I'll call it, through various companies, and really focus on aligning with clients to develop holistic risk strategies. And a fun fact about me is I love serving our veterans in any way possible. So take them out on the golf course or take them to the shooting range and love to help them out.
And I am Shanae Tebow. I'm represented with PuzzleHR. I currently serve as a HR service portfolio manager. Joined Puzzle in 2020 and then have over a decade of experience in HR, payroll, and employee benefits, which we'll be talking through today. I currently support a group of our Puzzle clients and really focus on our client satisfaction and their employees. A fun fact, I sit on a nonprofit board for foster children here in the Pinellas County area. And then I also am a mean bowler. So I can bowl over 200. And it's with a straight ball too. So yeah.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
And we want to make this as interactive as possible throughout this webinar. So if you have any questions, please just pop them into the chat. But I want to talk about some current trends today that we're seeing within the employee benefits landscape. No surprise here with the first one, right? Higher health plan costs. We kind of predicted that U.S. employers were going to shoulder most of the rate increases really through the next couple of years, but employees may be experiencing higher premiums, larger out-of-pocket costs, and really reduced coverage. There's a lot of pressure on employers to absorb costs, and that's really continuing to intensify. Many employers are really looking to take on the rate increases for employees, and the average last year and covered an average of 83% of employees' individual premium. So that demand is really growing for employers to pay 100% of the cost, which has really become a big challenge in the market. 10 years ago, nearly a third of employers were paying 100% of the employee-only portion, while very few offer it today. Another thing is shifting interest in different health plan models. As rate hikes continue, employers are seeming to become more apt to consider self-funding and really take advantage of new models like copay driven plans. It gives more employees more control over their healthcare spend. And you can use this as an opportunity to really look into alternative fundings that gives you transparency in your claims and also an opportunity to save on a surplus if you do perform well. Skyrocketing prescription drug costs. This is no surprise that we're seeing in the market, especially with the uptick in specialty drug costs. Things like GLP-1s, Ozempics of the world have really driven up prescription drug costs over the last couple of years. Employers are going to continue to search for tactics to help really mitigate the future price increases. We're seeing claims spends up to 40, 50% sometimes on prescription drug costs alone, and it's becoming a bigger challenge year in, year out.
No doubt. Yeah. And I want to just highlight a great source that HR professionals use, which is SHRM, Society of Human Resources Management. And they do an annual survey each year to understand what employees are valuing in the workplace when it comes to their benefits. And so for 2024, the data showed that health-related benefits are right now employees' #1 priority. So just something for participants that are listening today to take a really thoughtful approach when you're working with your broker, team to figure out what that, design of your benefit plan looks like that really helps you attract the right talent, but also retain your talent too.
Yeah. Pat, if you could head over to that next slide, please.
Yep.
Another emphasis that we're seeing in the market is really non-traditional benefits, right? Your traditional benefits are major medical, dental, vision, life insurance, things of that nature. But we're continuing to see requests in other areas to really help attract and retain the top talent that employers are looking for. Lifestyle spending accounts have become a huge request for employers, as well as alternative voluntary benefits ranging from daycare to pet care, just about everything in between. So we're seeing a wide variety of offerings that companies are really looking to expand upon. And they're really looking to revamp their package just to cater to their audience. Some other examples that we're seeing in the market are child care or elder care for maybe parents that folks are taking care of, commuter benefits, critical illness insurance. We've seen a big uptick with some of our ancillary carrier partners offering accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity type benefits that were traditionally done through an Aflac or Colonial. Now we're seeing that through some of our other carrier partners. Financial counseling and financial literacy, helping your employees understand, really how to manage their finances in an effective way. With inflation where it is today, employees are really looking to get some outside resources if possible. Gym memberships, we're seeing a huge request for that, and other healthy lifestyle programs. Home insurance, identity theft protection, as well as legal services as well. Another two areas that we see a huge ask around employers and employees is telemedicine and mental health resources, whether that be a standalone telemedicine platform that works as an individual where they can have the employee and their dependents leverage that technology, or it can be incorporated in their current healthcare plan. But we've seen a big request in the mental health space as well. Having access to care now is challenging to get in to see someone in the mental health field. So being able to tie that into the to the telemedicine piece is a great resource. The other trends that we're seeing in job market mobility, we saw a huge amount of layoffs in 2023, really in the tech, banking, and financial services area. And we've really talked about on previous updates, workers really are we want to see employees hunker down and remain with their current employers for the foreseeable future, just because it was a volatile job market. employers are really going to continue to leverage artificial intelligence to take on specific jobs and to play a significant role in upskilling and retaining existing workforces.
Yeah, and just to reiterate on, AI, it's a topic we've talked about in our fall symposium. It's pretty much everywhere you look. And just from an HR perspective, there really should be an embracing of AI in the workplace and not so much a resistance. Really, so many roles can benefit from the efficiency of integrating AI into your role. So whether you have internal HR or partnering with Puzzle, just working through creating some HR standards and best practices on what AI looks like in the workplace. But I think it can really help with productivity and, life-work balance. So people are working smarter, not harder. All right. One of my favorite things to do regarding benefits and gearing up to open enrollment is a benefits survey. So what better way to know what your employees are liking, not liking, with new benefits added, than to survey them. No reason to make assumptions about that. Let the data tell you what they're interested in. So this is something that we're a really big fan of at Puzzle and our broker partners is, something like 90 to 100 days before your open enrollment, launching a survey out to your employees to understand what they're looking for as you gear up for the next renewal related to their benefits. So some just key areas to focus on with the survey is choosing the right tool. So we leverage SurveyMonkey a lot, but lots of other great tools out there. SurveyMonkey has a nice QR code too, which is awesome, mobile friendly. You can even place then flyers in your workplace. So somebody's in the break room, just scan the QR code, they can take the survey. Communicate, of course, the purpose. We want the feedback, so then it can positively benefit the benefit plan as we create it that next year. Keeping it anonymous so people feel that they're not going to be singled out for giving feedback, but we want to hear from them. Asking the right questions. So Puzzle has already, a great standard benefits survey that we recommend. So nothing more than 10 to 15 questions, gets right to the root of what the needs are, and no more than 5 minutes for your employees to be able to complete that. As I mentioned, making it mobile friendly is key, right? You want it accessible, easy, and you can even do some rewarding for participation. So whether that's a gift card or a pizza party or an extra PTO day, something to incentivize folks to give their feedback is always a good tactic. But definitely chat with your HR partner or your benefits broker on making sure that we get this out well before open enrollment, so we can use that to create your next year's benefit plan together.
I know this is probably going to be a little hard to see, so I'm going to kind of highlight some of these areas, but we want to talk about just planning ahead of time and how to be best organized as you approach that open enrollment period. And really, there's some key bullets here that we want to focus on, but organization is huge. Making sure you're establishing key timelines and deliverables and giving your employees deadlines far in advance to make sure that they have time to prepare, they have time to submit their elections on time, to communicate with their loved ones or spouses, really to make sure that they're in the best position possible as they head into open enrollment season. We want to make sure that you're giving internal stakeholders in all departments ample time to prepare as well. Just making sure that departments are aware of any changes that may be going on, making sure HR and finance are in communication. You may have carrier changes that go on, contributions, deduction changes. You may be enhancing benefits. So you want to make sure everyone's equipped for any changes that may be coming. We talk about payroll and human capital management systems. File feeds are very important and probably a part of most of our everyday lives now. And sometimes it's the bane of our existence, but it is critical in making sure that we're automating things. So if there are any changes, making sure that everyone's connected and on the same page. We think adopting a hybrid environment is mission critical. We think, a multi-pronged approach is something that we do at our firm, and I'm sure a lot of other brokers do as well. But we're big fans of having both in-person and virtual webinars. We've recorded videos that were, YouTube videos for employees to go through. One resource that we love is called a Brain Shark video. And essentially it's a digital employee benefit guide booklet that walks employees page by page, and they can click on whatever benefit that is relevant to their selection. So if I'm someone that has medical through my spouse and I'm only enrolling in some of the ancillary benefits, I can click and toggle through each one of those benefits. All of these can be embedded into the payroll or benefit administration platform. So it's one thing that we like to do ahead of time is prepare that ahead so your employees have access to that. Don't underestimate the power of communication. We're going to hammer this home today. Over communicate. Make sure that you're not going to have any surprises about when open enrollment is. You don't want to have any surprises for employees about changes that were being made, and really leveraging as many channels as possible to send those reminders via email, Teams messaging, Slack, whoever, whatever platform you guys are using. We want to make sure we're complying with HIPAA, ACA, and other regulations. Make sure you're working closely with your broker partner to ensure you're compliant in all these areas. Some of us probably have a variety of employee sizes. Some of us may be under 50, some of us may be over 100. So making sure you're up to date in all of your compliance is mission critical. Education is huge, especially if you make any changes in your plan. But the bottom line is employees can be very confused when it comes to healthcare. In fact, there's a stat that I'm going to share later, but I believe it's 88% or 83% of employees surveyed said that they thought their benefits were confusing. So this is the one time of the year where the employees are facing this, and it's in front of them. They get a chance to make choices, to make changes. We want to make sure you're arming them with as much data and information as possible, so they don't have any surprises when it comes to making an election. We recommend starting with a company-wide information session. Think about keeping an open door policy for anybody to follow up, and just making it easier to ask those questions. This kind of ties into the centralized resources. We want that access to information easy for the employees. So there's a diverse workforce that most of us are involved with that spans over 5 generations. So we're not only seeing that generational diversity, but also geographically, right? So there's a lot of employees in different areas. We want to be able to house information in one centralized location, but also catering your messaging to address all of your workforce, right? So whether it be a Microsoft SharePoint or your benefit administration or payroll platform, having that all in one place that can address all those different employees is mission critical as well. Speaking of benefit administration, we want to streamline the open enrollment process, and most best-in-class firms are utilizing some type of an online benefit administration platform. It not only makes things easier for the employees when they go in and enroll, but it also helps the administrator, whoever's managing the employee benefit program in general. It serves as a database for compliance documents. You can embed those webinars and videos that we talked about. All your disclosures and agreements can be embedded in there. And we understand some industries rely heavily on paper, enrollment forms, or it's a manual environment. And sometimes there's no getting around that. We understand. But oftentimes we have clients that are in that environment and they still use a benefit administration platform just so they have everything in one place. Sinead talked about building an attractive benefit package. So leveraging that data that we talked about through the survey, better understanding the desire of your workforce, it can really help create a customized package to really help out, not only attract outsiders, but retain the best people that you have. We typically have a pre-renewal with our clients about 120 days out, where we're talking about strategy, feedback from those surveys, any plan designs that they'd like to see added or changed. So we use that pre-renewal meeting about 120 days out as that time to really build the blueprint of the plan going into the renewal, so we can have marching orders going to the market where we have some maybe new plan designs. Communicate those plan changes early and often. One thing that we find is a best practice to do is offering a what's new portion within the benefit guide, or maybe it's a flyer that you post in your break room or an email blast that you're sending out. But if you are making changes, you want to ensure that your employees have that information ahead of time. In-depth plan changes, additions, or removals of benefits helps those employees have a heads up going into that decision-making mode. And remind your employees to consider any life changes coming up. I remember about 5 years ago when I had my youngest child, I had to make a benefit election that was right around the time she was going to be born, and I knew there was going to be a hefty bill coming up. So I did change my plan that made it a little bit more affordable that year. And then I went back to a high deductible health plan the following year. So it gives you an opportunity, if you have some things coming up, whether it be surgeries, whether it be a life event, to really take that into consideration when you are selecting your benefit plans. And then lastly, just checking for errors, right? Once you get all the information back, once you've taken all these steps, you've gone through open enrollment, everything's gone smooth, you've wrapped everything up, before submitting all that information to the carriers, allow time for yourself to review the material, identify any issues, and reach out to any employees in case there are corrections that need to be made. Shanae, anything else that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with everything. I think it just continues to reiterate the need to partner early and often, and just, communication out to your employees. So all really good tips here.
So some effective communication. Again, I mentioned earlier, you've heard us talk about communicate. We want to talk about this multi-pronged approach and really how we can help educate your employees in creating that engaged workforce. So 43% of workers surveyed in a recent Pew Research study said that they quit their job specifically because it's not good. And this, fortunately, open enrollment gives you an opportunity to remind employees about the valuable benefits that you're offering that can help them gain flexibility, security, and work-life balance that they're seeking. An effective communication strategy will not only help provide the information to your workers, but to help make them make informed decisions, but it can also help boost the appreciation for those in your organization. We want to over-communicate. Days of sending those emails out about open enrollment lines, it's just not sufficient in today's environment. Most of the younger workforce lives on an iPhone or some type of an Android, right? A smartphone. Employees want fair warning and ongoing reminders. So consider some type of a SMS, text messaging system or alert to notify your employees when open enrollment is coming. Flyers with QR codes that can scan the employee benefit guides ahead of time. Those educational videos and reminders that we talked about, those are opportunities that we see to over communicate to your employees. We want to adjust the messaging, right? We talked about it earlier, wanting to be able to showcase any additional benefits about what's new, right? And continuing to solidify the value that you're bringing. This is the one time of the year that you really get to showcase your benefits and what they're getting. So consider a sample total rewards compensation report that you might be able to use from your human capital management platform or payroll platform. Really use your broker partner, your client manager, whoever is delivering some of those messages to showcase, hey, this is what's important to us as an organization. You are people, and this is what we're doing this year to show our appreciation to you. And keeping it simple, I mentioned it earlier, insurance is very confusing. Bottom line is you need to have clear, concise messaging, really free of the insurance jargon. I was wrong. It's 86% of employees are confused about their benefits, right? So this is not good. And I'm in the industry, and it can be confusing for myself, right? When I go to look at an explanation of benefit, balanced build, it could be very confusing. So we need to serve as a resource and help arm those employees to help make those decisions, really what's in the best interest of them and their families.
Yeah, I love that you brought up total rewards, Jake, because that is a great tool to use. So for anyone listening that might not be familiar with that, you know, employees generally, they see their take-home pay, right? Weekly, every other week. That's what they think of is what they're getting compensated for to do the job. But as we know from the employer side, there's a lot more that the employer goes into to provide benefits and financially provide those contributions. So the total reward statement is a great tool to provide. It's just a statement basically of all line items, you know, PTO, different leave, each, you know, benefit contribution, all of the benefits that an employer offers above and beyond their standard salary or bonuses. And it's a really great way to comprehensively show what their total compensation and benefit package is. So love that you brought that up. And I think it ties in really nicely during open enrollment because sometimes employers are in that tight spot of once they see their renewal rates increase 10%, where does that cost go? Does the employer eat it or does the employee share some of that? And what better way to create transparency and openness is to put a nice Excel document in front of them with those dollars and cents. And I think that really speaks to employees. So love that suggestion.
Another thing that we've seen some employers do, especially if you are covering a high percentage of the employee-only premium or whatever plan the employees enroll in, we've had the leadership within those organizations kind of tell that to their employees to make sure that they're getting that from the top down. They know that this is an important thing for us. We're investing back into our company via our people. So if you're an organization and you are significantly, you know, contributing towards that health insurance plan, I think it's a great idea to incorporate leadership in the messaging, whether it be in the front of your benefit guide or part of the recorded webinar or in person during open enrollment. Having that messaging from the top down, I think speaks volumes to the organization. So I know a lot of these are kind of overlapping, but we do just want to talk about some of those communication essentials, right? We want to make sure that employees are notified on those deadlines for making the election. When does open enrollment start? When does it end? When is that window closed? What are the new offerings for both health and what other non-traditional benefits have been offered? We talked about what's new, right? Those step-by-step instructions for selecting the benefits. One thing that we do, and I know other brokerage firms do, is step-by-step instructions on how to go into the benefit administration platform, right? And it gives kind of screenshots on sign in, register your name, and it shows the check marks and where they're at in the process, just making things easier for your employees. Having a frequently asked question and answer sheet ahead of time, being proactive is helpful, but also having that open door policy and just really helping answer any questions that may pop up. And then contact information to get anything. The one thing that we do at our firm is we have a resource called the Employee Care Center. And I know other best-in-class firms do this, but it's a resource where employees can call an internal number. It's for us, it's the Baldwin Group employees out of our Tampa office. And it gives them the opportunity to call if they have any issues with billing, claims, enrollment questions. What benefit best fits my family or our needs? If you've ever called an insurance carrier and tried to get to the bottom of a problem, you'll quickly find that it takes a long time to get to the resolution. So having a liaison or a middleman to go through that process and help an employee that's maybe struggling and get to the resolution quicker is we think invaluable. But there are other resources out there. If you're not experiencing that right now, I would recommend reaching out to your broker, seeing if they have maybe a direct line within their firm, or maybe it's their client manager that can help answer any questions that may pop up. Shanae, I know you wanted to talk briefly on the multiple touch points. Oh, Pat, do you mind going back?
Sure. Yeah, so with the videos and webinars, I know we've talked about some unique ways to integrate technology, but definitely want to highlight the importance of us being in a virtual world and a lengthy email is not really effective in delivering updates and communication. So whether that be through YouTube videos or Jake mentioned what did you call it? The brain shark?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So the benefit guide that's interactive. I know some of our HCM, human capital management systems, also have community pages where you can blast out kind of notifications out to all of your employees. But really a big fan of doing micro learnings. So 3 minutes, 5-minute little videos, snippets on the open enrollment process as it's happening. And some of it might be educational of, what is a high deductible health plan? What is an HSA, a health savings account, out-of-pocket maximums, even just some general education on what the words and definitions are that they can expect to see on their benefit guides, I think helps ease the confusion and the stress and overwhelm that employees might feel because there are so many options. And as Jake said, even when we're in the marketplace and know the word, it still is confusing even for us. So whatever ways we can deliver that to employees and frequently and in short bursts, I think is really effective.
Yeah, well said. One thing that's not on here that I think is super helpful is offering personal one-on-one assistance. So in a recent JustWorks Harris poll, it was revealed that American workers don't really know where to turn to get answers around their benefit questions. 72% said they wish someone would tell them what's the best health insurance for their specific situation. 44% said they were uncomfortable asking their HR contact about enrolling in insurance. And then 62% reported that they don't change their benefit elections year to year just because the process is too stressful. Giving that sentiment, we would recommend considering offering in line with your benefits advisor, just really that I talked about, to give them the option of asking about their personal situation privately, really without having to disclose any health condition or any potential mental health issues on an email. It's a great resource to have, and really just want to serve as a steward to your employees and being able to help them making these selections, because they may not be saying it. You may not get any hands in the room during that open enrollment meeting, but people are asking questions internally and they're saying how stressful this is or how they hate open enrollment. We want to make it seamless for them and make their lives easier. All right. So once we've enrolled in the benefits, right, we want to talk about some next steps for employees, what to do, right? So just really giving your employees next steps and constant touch points through that process until that effective date goes live. So things to review with your employees and let them know what's coming around the pipe. Watching for new ID cards and information. If you guys changed insurance providers or made any plan elections, you can expect those insurance carrier partners to send new ID cards within a few weeks. You want to be able to explain to those employees, maybe depending on what size you are, if you're a smaller employer, sometimes it's a little bit later in the year that you get those ID cards. So instructing employees how to go online and get proof of insurance via a temporary ID card online. Any mobile apps that are out there, maybe you're leveraging an online telemedicine platform, or maybe it's a employee benefit wallet. Maybe it's their retirement plan, whatever those mobile apps are, to help instruct employees, one, how to create the account for each benefit provider, but also how to manage that year in, year, month in, month out throughout the year, to make sure that they understand the technology and how to access that care. Explore your benefits, right? The best way to become familiar with them is to use them. So set up your preventive care visits, like wellness, your preventative screenings, cancer screenings, dental, your annual dental cleanings, eye exams. You're investing as an organization for your employees, so we want to make sure that they're utilizing it properly. And if they're going out and getting their preventative care, ultimately, that's going to help prevent downstream claims down the road. Make sure your employees are checking their first pay stub at the benefits are accurate in terms of the payroll deductions, right? What they saw in their employee benefit guide, it's going to be $25 a check, making sure that's reflected properly in their payroll deductions. And if not, making sure that they have that contact within the HR department in case there is any mistakes. And then tracking your medical expenses, whether you're using a health savings account or a flex spending account, or you have ongoing prescription drug costs, really managing that piece. We want to empower employees to be good stewards of the plan and themselves. So we want to make sure that they have all the tools and resources to go in and make sure they're managing that throughout the year. Where am I at with my deductible? Where am I at with my out-of-pocket maximum? And then lastly, just best-in-class brokerage firms are meeting with their clients really 30 to 60 days after their effective date, right? So if you're a January 1 renewal, we typically like to meet sometime in February, maybe closer to March, depending on your size, and really debrief real time on feedback on, hey, how did things go? What's the good, the bad, the ugly? We want to have that real time feedback and really look internally and see what we need to change. Maybe we don't need to change certain things, and maybe we need to duplicate those efforts. But it's also a great opportunity to launch a satisfactory survey. We don't want to over survey employees, but really, I think if you're asking them about their benefits, what they want, and then how they thought they went, we see those as two great opportunities to really self-evaluate as an organization to see how things went.
Agreed. I feel like this slide needs like a little confetti celebration of you're done, you've made it, you're post open enrollment, now what? And so definitely from an HR perspective, we want to continue to have engagement and utilization of the plan. As the employer, you guys are making large investments in the benefits. So you want to make sure your employees are using them. So I think the key there for sure is engagement, right? So what are some very practical ways you can spur engagement? I have seen a lot of great success with launching monthly trivia or a newsletter surrounding a benefits related topic. So as mentioned here, when it's things like cancer screenings or wellness checkups, you can do like a preventative care raffle, and preventative care is not like a HIPAA protected thing that it wouldn't be a problem if you asked people, did you do your annual checkup? That's a good common sense thing that everyone should be doing. And so if you complete that preventative care visit, they enter in a raffle to win a prize. And that's encouraging just good health for your staff and then utilization of the benefits. I also like when it's like Heart Awareness Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, syncing those types of topics related to highlighting with your benefit package, how they can utilize that in that certain month is also a really great way to tie that in year round. And I know even some big insurance carriers also offer actually a budget each year to employers. It's basically a credit back to you to spend on engagement with your employees. I'm familiar and I've seen it with Cigna that they've offered sometimes, $3,000 to $5,000 annual credit to an employer to launch benefit related programs and rewards for your employees for encouraging participation. So if you're based here in Florida, like us, hurricane preparedness even would be something that's covered because it's safety, health under that umbrella. So a lot of really creative ways that you can keep the benefits at the top of your employees' brain throughout the year, continue that education, and just provide a supportive workplace for your team.
There was a question in the chat. Great point, Shanae, and I'm glad you added that too about the wellness dollars, because that is something, again, depending on your size, you might not qualify for that, but it's worth an ask, right? Ask your broker partner, hey, do we get any wellness funds from a Florida Blue or Cigna or whatever the carrier partner is, because you can use those dollars for a wide variety. There's a list of 100+ things that you can spend that on. And again, I think that just helps reinforce engagement in that workforce and gets those employees to be better stewards of the plan, to go get their preventatives and incentivizing them just to really be healthier folks in general. I missed this earlier. There was a question in the chat, and I apologize for the delay. It says, thinking on prescription drug costs, about what percentage of your clients cover GLP-1 drugs? That's a great question. In terms of covering it, if folks are diabetic, most of the plans are covering those under their current health plan. However, we are seeing a big uptick for folks using those GLP-1 drugs for weight loss and those not being covered under the plan. So to answer your question, I don't have a huge amount of clients that are covering those costs, but we are having an uptick of self-funded clients that are looking to expand their pharmacy benefit program to covering some of those non-diabetic GLP-1 prescription drug costs for those that are maybe facing obesity or looking to lose weight in a healthy manner. So hopefully that answers that question. And again, if there are any others, please feel free to chime in. All right. So we want to kind of tie everything together on almost this checklist here that we want to talk about and just ensuring that everything went smoothly. We talked about survey results. So if you did survey your employees regarding the previous year's open enrollment experience or what they want to see, just make sure that you're referencing that and using those results, right? Think about how you're designing that. I know Sinead talked about some of the different platforms. I've seen it before where it allows the employees to type all their requests in. That can get overwhelming if you have a large employee base. So maybe think about making it multiple question or simple answers and maybe minimizing the responses that they can put in there. That way you can formulate an actual report that you can take out and really implement into your pre-renewal strategy meeting. Making sure the insurance company information, if there are any changes to the current rates, if you're going to be working with new carriers, have this information ready for any third-party administrators or vendors you're working with. Really helping properly configure any systems that need. I talked about electronic data interface file feeds earlier. If you're making a carrier change from Florida Blue to United or vice versa, setting those file feeds up properly in the time that it's going to take. Usually that's a pretty long runway that they need to build those things out. So making sure you have something in place in the interim to be able to onboard those employees, get them in the new carrier system, and then any new hires or terminations that may happen until those feeds are set up. Making sure your, again, compliance documents, your Section 125 plan document is up to date. We recommend anytime you're making a carrier change or plan changes that you go back and review and potentially make amendments to that. Your summary of benefits and coverage and SPD documents. You want to make sure that you're partnering with your broker to make sure all those are updated and accurate. And then looking into decision-making tools. Consider offering your employees tools that help them make those right benefit decisions by comparing plans, estimating costs, calculating, hey, what's my net cost going to be after I'm all done with this? And again, we talked about benefit administration. Some better than others, but some of these new platforms do illustrate what these costs would be for the employees and give them a comparison of, hey, this is your benefits. These are your benefits today. This is your take-home pay. This is what it would be at open enrollment and renewal. Making sure any other compliance documents and notices are accurate. So beyond those documents that we talked about before, there are a number of notices and materials that you need to distribute at open enrollment. So these are notice of HIPAA, special enrollment rights, the Medicare Part D notice, credible, non-credible status, patient protection notice, HIPAA privacy notice, right? There's a ton out there. So making sure that you're partnered with the right advisor or broker and that is being rolled out and distributed properly to your employees. Another advantage to having an online benefit administration platform is, typically when those employees go in to enroll, they're acknowledging and giving consent to receive things electronically, right? So as soon as they check that box and go through that process, they've received all the disclosures and consents, right? So you're kind of covering your basis from that perspective. Digital tools and technology. You want to make sure that you're using that online system for open enrollment if you can. I mentioned the paper forms are sometimes necessary depending on the industry. But we talked about enrollment platforms, virtual meeting softwares like Zoom, Teams, potentially Brain Sharks, and other videos as well. I love the physical benefit guides and dropping those off to my clients and having those paper enrollment guides for new hires. It's almost like a recruitment tool, right? If you're interviewing someone, it's nice to be able to send them those things digitally, but it's nice to be able to hand them one as well. And we recommend having those on site as well as any posters in the break room. We've seen flyers, brochures, and a mixed bag of anything in between. And we talked about building those webinars and presentations. One recommendation that we would like to give to you guys is that frequently asked question resource. So you could prepare that list ahead of time, anticipating any questions that might pop up. If you're a seasoned HR professional or been in the benefit space for a long time, you've probably seen all the questions pop up, and you know all the repeat questions that are going to be coming your way. So building that ahead of time can really arm yourselves and give your employees answers ahead of going into that and help them making those decisions. And then scheduling time slots for those information settings and sessions. So depending on the industry, I've got some that are in hospitality or construction where, they can't have everyone all at once into an open enrollment meeting. So maybe you're having a sign-up sheet, or maybe it's 4 different meetings, right? Making sure that you're blasting that in all your different ways via email and messaging to make sure that the employees know what time slots are available and when they need to go in. Temporary staff agreements, you might need to hire some temporary staff to help through open enrollment. Folks like PuzzleHR, and there are other resources out there that can provide kind of a la carte services. So really looking to see if you need any additional outside support that you can help, outsource those things and make your life easier. And then we like to call this a pulse survey. It's a post open enrollment survey, and just really getting a pulse on how the employees thought everything went, how they engaged with their benefits, how they thought the open enrollment process went, and if things improved from last year, getting a gauge of maybe scoring that and using that as the follow-up from the previous year into your next year's renewal process. So those are just some checklists that we thought might help as you guys approach that renewal season. Shanae, anything that you'd like to add to that?
I think you covered it. Lots of good stuff here.
We wanted to leave about 10 minutes for any type of Q&A that might pop up.
Jake, we've got one here in the chat.
All right, I'll go ahead and read the question too. It says employers can get antsy when it comes to how long it takes to get and that it typically comes right before open enrollment launch. Do you have a response you can recommend that we tell employers that resonates better than it just takes a long time? I recently learned that it goes through state approval, which can be timely. Is that correct? I'm not sure what you mean by state approval at the end, but to answer your question, yes, it can be late depending on the size of your organization. If you're in that small group space that's really under 50 employees, usually, unfortunately, you're going to be last to get your renewals from the carrier partners. The larger you are, the more timely you'll get those renewals ahead of time. We are getting a lot of our December 1 renewals for our mid-market block of business right now. One thing that I would recommend to really try and help expedite that process is having your broker advisor be proactive with the incumbent carrier and figuring out, hey, do you have any verbal indication where you think this renewal is going to be? We would like to try and proactively negotiate if you're fully insured, right? And I'm speaking more generally on the fully insured side, because those are the ones that usually are taking longer to get those results. But getting that information early and being proactive to try to start the negotiations, I think helps get a jump start on that. And sometimes you're able to wrap things up sooner than later if they want to proactively negotiate and give you what we call a no-shop renewal, where you don't go out to the market. Not necessarily saying that's a great idea to not market your benefits, but it is an option sometimes if you are facing a favorable renewal. Hopefully this was helpful for everyone, and you can take at least a nugget or two with you as you head into that open enrollment season. But again, I think over communicating, over educating the employees really is a point of emphasis, but also allowing them to be a part of that process. I think by surveying your employees, you're valuing their input, and I think that goes a long way when it comes to camaraderie and, you know, the dynamic of the workforce.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about, different generations in the workforce too, and how they're going to have different benefit needs too. So depending on your demographic, you might have a wide range of, fitness and healthcare. Or gym benefits I've seen as a big one right now that is a real attractive item for younger folks getting into the workplace that want to have, if you're local here, Camp Tampa or the Orange Theory, and they like to have those types of memberships and have the dollars to spend on things like that. That's important to them.
There's 2 more questions in the Q&A.
Do we see many enrollment blunders with passive enrollments? That's a great question, and just a great topic in general, I think. I typically don't see blunders in the passive enrollment. In case anyone's wondering what that means, so if you're an employer and you're receiving a favorable renewal and you decide to renew as is, and you can still have a passive enrollment if you are making plan changes, but typically if you are making plan changes, we would recommend an active enrollment just so the employees are aware of any changes that are going to be made. But in the case that nothing is changing and you do want to just make it passive, one, I think you still need to educate your employees and let them know nothing's changed, nothing's new. If you don't want to make any elections, you're going to be mapped right into the same plans that you're in today. If you do have any life changes or say you just want to make a plan change, these are the steps that you need to take. So I haven't faced any blunders in terms of that, and typically we're not doing it if there are plan changes, but I love passive enrollments to make the administrator's life easier. It's seamless in terms of the employees end as well. And then are carriers able to provide information on pricing for certain procedures prior to elections being made based on these available tiers? So that's a great question. It's going to depend, I think, by provider, right? And their contract with the carriers. So I think the answer is sometimes. I think depending on the platform that you're in and the funding arrangement that you're in, you might have access to that. It depends if you're making a carrier change, if you're not currently enrolled in that plan. But if you're able to give them specifics in the, hey, this plan, I'm going to enroll in this tier and I'm going to have this procedure done. Having that resource that I mentioned earlier in our care center, they can pinpoint with the carrier partners what that out-of-pocket exposure would be for an employee. So hopefully that answers your question. I think it depends on the scenario, but most cases, if you can pinpoint what you're enrolling in and where you're getting those procedures done, they can give you an idea what that would cost you out of pocket.
Looks like there was a comment in the chat about with the passive enrollment, just the need to re-elect the flexible spending account every year, that one cannot fall under passive enrollment. Is that correct, Jake?
Yeah, that's a great point. So if you do have that FSA component to your benefits, yeah, we would recommend having that active each year. But with that being said, you could probably just make that to that population that is actually enrolling in those benefits today. Great questions, guys.
Well, thank you, Pat and Jake, for joining us with the Baldwin Group. I had a fun time chatting with you guys this afternoon, and thank you for everyone that participated and attended, and great discussion, and reach out to us if you have any other questions after this.